Well, thank you, Mark, so much for coming up to camp and showing me around your old house here. It's fun hearing all your memories. So, for those who don't know you, kind of what was your earliest camp experience here?
My earliest camp experience was when my family used to come for mass meeting back in the mid-50s. And so I have memories of a young age coming, and there'd be hundreds of people here on a Sunday afternoon for mass meeting. And remember walking along the lake, and we have pictures too of us at a young age being here for that. But then when I got to about fifth grade, came to camp for my first time as a camper, and so that began the process of coming to camp every summer, and we always looked forward to it.
And your father was the caretaker, right? Was that his job title?
In 1970, then, we moved here, and Dad was the groundskeeper or caretaker, and Mom was the cook. And so they lived here from 1970 to 1976.
So you have many memories in this part of the building then?
Many memories of this part of the building, with our apartment being here, and then the camp office right next door. And it's good to see the space. Good to see it redone. Looks really good.
Awesome. So as a camper, you got to do a lot of different things here. What were some of your favorite summer camp activities here?
I really appreciated the small group activities that we did, where we always shared a cabin of boys and a cabin of girls, and we would pick out a name for ourselves, and we did a lot of activities together, going for hikes, doing Bible study, doing crafts. The all camp time, the whole camp together, was the swim time or the boating time, and I enjoyed that too. But I especially enjoyed the small group camping experience, because you get to know a lot of people really well, and you develop friendships that last a lifetime.
So any former cabin mates of yours that you still keep in touch with that people might know?
I can't think of any that I keep in touch with, but a lot of friends in the Church of the Brethren that I've known throughout my life. Well, one is Tim Morphew, but that was more high school age. Youth camp was an important time. And because whereas junior and junior high was small group camping, at youth camp we had a lot of things together in workshops and things like that. And so I remember Marsha Orpert and Tim Morphew, Donna Ritchie, a lot of people like that. Many of us were on camp council together back then. I started on camp council my freshman year in 1969. So enjoyed. It was a time of developing leadership. It was a way for people, because we were called out by the camp with youth camp, by the campers, and then we planned the camp for the next year. Another one was like Jim Geyer. He was on camp council also. Another good friend. Sherwood Waggy was head of the camp council for a while. So we just had a lot of good time planning. At that time, we would choose a dean. We would invite the counselors. At camp, we pretty much did the schedule. It was just a good time of developing leadership. Yeah.
So did you work on summer staff then at all?
I did. When we moved here in 1970, I was in high school. And so the summer of 1970, when we moved here, I was on staff, and that was pretty much doing maintenance or cleaning cabins and that kind of thing. So I did that in 1970 and 1971. And then in 1974, when I was in college, I came back for one summer.
Always something to fix and always a bathroom to clean. That's for
Always,
sure.
that's right. Always a lot of cleaning and mowing and things like that.
Cool. So here at Camp Mac, you've been able to really live it and just explore a lot of Camp Mac. What's a part of camp that you have been to that you wish more people had the opportunity or took the time to do? Kind of a hidden gem of camp.
Well, one of the special places is the chapel
Yeah.
because we would have devotions in there or worship. And I also, from later on, have many memories of people getting married there. And Ann and I were married there 5 years ago. So just the view from there. And also, when I was on staff, I helped work on the stained glass windows in the chapel. So I got to know the stained glass windows pretty intimately
Yeah.
in terms of applying new putty and painting the frame and so on. So, but that's a special place, is the chapel.
Yeah. Did you work on any of the other stained glass windows in like Quinter Miller or just in the chapel there?
I did not. Dad, one of his first jobs was covering the rose window because it was starting to deteriorate.
Yeah.
And so the plan was to cover it, and it was painted, and then years later it was restored. And then also we did remove some of the windows above the auditorium that were starting to deteriorate, and then they were stored in Wampler
Yeah.
for many years.
Okay.
So I think I was involved in helping to remove those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you lived out of the area for a time as you were a pastor and all of that. So how is it meaningful to come back to camp and to have this place still here for you?
I developed many close relationships over the years with many campers and staff and camp council and youth camp. And there are just so many memories of those relationships here. And also worship experiences. I appreciated my being raised in a Church of the Brethren congregation, but there was something about coming here with other campers and experiencing morning watch or vespers or cabin devotions that you really feel close to God in a different way than you do when you're at home. And so that had a big impression on me.
Were you ever a counselor here?
I was.
Yeah.
I was a counselor after college. I would come back and help counsel. And one year in 1978, I had worked for 2 years out of college and was getting ready to go into BBS. And I spent 6 weeks here as a counselor.
Wow.
And so that was kind of my big immersion as a camp counselor. But I always enjoyed coming as a counselor.
Did you have a favorite age group that you worked with, or?
I worked with both junior and junior high and enjoyed both of them. Each one was different. Yeah.
Now you've been able, you touched a little bit, you and Ann got married in Schultz Chapel, and
Yep.
so you've been able to have Camp Mac in another part of your life.
Right.
And you were saying your granddaughter came to camp a little bit last summer?
Last summer, yep.
What was that like, being able to have another generation come here?
We came along the Sunday that she started, and it was good to see her get started in the cabin and see the cabins that I enjoyed going to when I was her age, and seeing her interacting with the other campers. It was good to see a granddaughter coming to camp again.
And your kids came here, I'm guessing? Or did they go to one of the other COB camps?
We spent most of our ministry in southern Ohio, and so they went to Woodland Alders.
Okay.
But I've had a lot of good experiences in many camps, Camp Emmaus in Illinois and Inspiration Hills in northern Ohio. but also visiting camps out in Pennsylvania and Virginia and other areas.
Yeah.
But it's always good to come back to Camp Mac.
So our theme for Giving Day this year is Shine All Over Camp Mac, raising money for power outage resiliency.
Oh, good.
Do you remember any power outages here or have any stories of being in the dark here at camp?
I really don't. I don't really remember too many outages back then. Yeah. But if it was always an adventure because we enjoyed the being out in the dark at night with our flashlights and going for walks and doing sleep outside and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but really power outages, I really have no memory of any of those.
Well, that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
We had 8 last year. So
Oh
we have
my
plenty of recent memories.
goodness. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. That's a
why we're
lot.
raising money for it.
That's good.
So, you've seen Camp Mac change a lot in your time that you've come here, whether it was living here, it's always been changing and evolving. What excites you the most about the future of Camp Mac?
I think Camp Mac has a big impact on young lives. It's a good way for children and youth to experience God in a new way and to experience their faith in a new way through relationships, through the special Bible studies and worship together, and just the whole experience of sitting out on the lake. That's something I remember from many generations of people talking about the importance of sitting on the lake for Vespers or sitting by the lake or even being out on the lake. It's just good to experience those again.
Do you have any fun stories or memories that you'd like to share? Some favorite stories?
Really can't think of anything specific. I just do know that I grew up coming to Camp Mac. My mom was on staff in 1949 and 1950, and so she just loved coming to Camp Mac. And so that love of the camp was instilled in me at a young age, and so I always looked forward to that. And then in 1970, her dream was realized where we came here to work as a family. And so stories related to just the joy I felt being here at Camp Mac on many different situations.
Well, thank you so much for coming out and taking the tour of Ulrich and for sharing your Camp Mac story.
It's very good to be back, and thanks for inviting me, Todd.